Alright guys, welcome to my presentation on Tomorrow's Leaders Academy, or like I like to call it, TLA. I'm Stacy Wilburn, the founder and the CEO. This is a 24-hour child care leader and development academy. Just want to take a second to let you know how I actually came up with the idea and the concept of this. I currently work at Amazon, where it's been identified that the leaders of today are almost non-existent, and they've dumped a lot of money into research. So I thought I should take it one step further and actually start my own program. That's where TLA came from. I just want to reiterate that this is not just another daycare center. This is a learning academy. I actually did a focus group and polled 2,000 people from 4 different locations, which you will see come up as my actual starter locations for the company. What I did was I talked to 2,000 people, and the first question that I asked was about them actually wanting their children in the program. 87% of the people that I polled said they would pay for a program that groomed their children into being leaders. So basically what I got from this group is that 87%, that's almost a great majority of the 2,000 people, felt that the attributes that are needed to be a leader are not being given today. So a program like this, where it's devoted to kids and things like that, will go really far. The next thing that I polled was, I asked how. So the next question that I asked was, were leaders exist in today's society? 63% of my pollees actually said that they felt that leaders were non-existent in today's society. A lot of that, as I dug into it, it comes from the fact that people aren't having the time to actually deal with our youth. The talent is being wasted, and there aren't programs anymore like there used to be to where kids could get involved in different things in the community. It's basically an idle mind at waste. The last question that I posed to the focus group was about the military. 91% said that the military was once the best producers of leaders. I can actually speak on that topic, seeing as I'm a veteran myself of 8 years. I went in at 18. From there, I was enlisted. After 5 years of being enlisted, I became an officer. So I actually went through 4 different programs that the military had to offer. I had their basic training, which introduced me to the culture. I had the advanced individual training, which actually honed the skills. At the time, I was going to be a paralegal. And then I went on to WLC, which is the Warrior Leader course, which actually dives right into leadership into the military, where I actually learned the 3 things that it takes to be a leader: to be able to give purpose, direction, and motivation. After doing that as enlisted, I went on to go into the officer ranks. I actually had to go through the basic officer course, which was OCS. After going through that course, I went through BOLI. So I got a real good facet of what the military was trying to offer the leaders that they produce. But now, I guess you can actually say that they were once the best producers of leaders, because in today's society, companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, they're actually diving deep into what it takes to be a leader, because they're trying to find their leaders for tomorrow, because they see them as being non-existent. Leaders account for just roughly 13% of the world population. That means that out of the billions of people that are on Earth, only 13% are actually capable leaders, which is actually what you want, because leaders are not something that you can throw a rock and find around every corner. Leaders have to have a special it factor that some can be taught, some are born with, but either way, they have to be able to establish themselves as leaders. Out of that 13%, only half of them are actually in today's workforce. So you went from there only being 13% of the world's population to only basically 6.5% actually being leaders in today's workforce. And why is that, you say? It goes back to the very things that the poll took away. Lack of opportunity. You have a lot of kids that are in poverty right here in the United States that don't get the opportunity. Lack of guidance. I don't care if you got the money or if you don't have the opportunity, whatever it is, if you don't have the right type of guidance, someone that has great potential to be a leader could be lost. And the last thing is the lack of motivation. You can be the smartest, most intelligent person, but if you don't have that self-motivation and that get up and go about yourself, you won't go far as a leader. So, what is TLA aiming to find is a way to be able to cultivate these gems that we have. And when I say gems, I'm talking about the babies, our youth leaders. It's said that we learn the most within the first 5 years of life. So that's where, like I said, TLA has a range from newborns all the way up to 18 that they're trying to grasp. After the first 5 years of life, we spend the next 7 years developing those skills. So as we've learned things and we've absorbed everything like we were a sponge for the first 5 years, now we're trying to start actually applying some of that. And it's at the infancy stage within those first 7 years. You know, you're going through puberty and changes and things like that. But the leadership attributes are actually there developing if someone can take the time and see them. And that's when a lot of kids get into sports and different things of that nature, to where they start to see that leader piece that they actually have, just a small bit. Then the last part, and I think this is where it gets lost, where we think we can grab our youth and mold them, is the teenage years. These years are actually spent identifying with who we are. So we've already went through 5 years of what we learned. We've honed those skills. And now we're at the teenage phase to where we're trying to identify with ourselves, see what we want to do in life. But usually by the time we're 12, whatever attributes are in us as far as being leaders, they were already learned. So now at that stage is when we have to really start cultivating and developing that. And at TLA, we'll take those years starting from the first 5, the next 7, all the way up until the time that they're 18. And that's where we'll get the leaders of tomorrow. Alright, so information on the program. As I stated on the last slide, age ranges for attendance, newborn to 18 years of age. Age for enrollment, which is a very important part of the program, is newborn to 5. Remember on that last slide we actually talked about the fact that from newborn to 5 is where they're actually learning and they're absorbing everything, so you want to definitely get the age group right there. Anything past that point would have to get board approval. The candidates will also undergo 3 tests. You have your social skills, cognitive skills, and your physical skills. They must pass all 3, but it's very important to figure out which one is actually that individual's leadership style. Are they that social butterfly that can come into a room and captivate an audience that way? Do they have the cognitive skills to where they're very intellectual and they can stimulate others' minds and influence people that way? Are they the physical leader, the one that wants to take charge, get right out there with the people? Which one of these 3 stands out the most for them? And that's how we get our basis for our leaders. Tuition will be $2,500 a month. Rates may vary for inner city candidates just because there are 2 different types that we'll be looking at, and we'll find that out on the next slide. And along with the leadership development, students will also learn on the nationally accredited curriculum base. Then that way we can make sure that we're able to get financial aid assistance and other grants that schools and early childhood education programs get. And candidates will also learn something that I think is very important, which is the Six Sigma, C++, and other business attributes that you can find. They'll get taught those type of things as they're developing their leadership skills. Again, the program is open 24 hours. We'll have 2 shifts of teachers. The ratio will be 1 teacher for every 12 students, and that's from ages 5 to 18. The newborns, of course, will go by the state guidelines. So let's go ahead and talk business. So for the marketing strategy, I don't want to focus on the Ivy League students. I don't feel that that's where you're going to find those gems at. I really want to go into your military personnel and then into the inner cities where the kids aren't given the opportunity. Again, that's given that one top thing that we said was lacking on an earlier slide, giving that opportunity to some other individuals. Within the first year, we plan on enrolling 200 students within the first years of business. We will open locations for the next 10 years, opening 4 locations each year. So after 10 years, we should be up to 40 locations. The first 2 locations will be within 10 miles of the nearest military base. That way we're getting what I like to believe is a good portion of where our leaders are bred from. We'll start right there around the military base and see if we can't get some good candidates from there. And then the reason why we chose that is just the fact that military parents already have those set standards that we would expect for their children to also inherit as they're raising them and they're growing up throughout their stages. The next 2 locations will be in the lower income areas of major cities to include the metro areas. The reason that we chose this is because there's a lot of untapped resources out there. Kids staying in trouble, getting into the wrong thing, just because, again, like I said, idle minds. Doing something like this actually takes a program and it gives back to the community, which is what we definitely want to do. So we'll have that open. So for each year that we're opening up, it'll be 2 near military base and then 2 in the major cities. With the inner city facilities, we'll work with the states to get that state funding to offer them lower tuition rates. That's how we can supplement their costs to make it to where we get that well-rounded base of enrollees. And in the program, like I said earlier, we'll have financial aid and federal aid acceptability. So, what's needed to take flight? What I'm needing from you guys is this. I need the investment of $250,000, which is a small change out of anyone's pocket as I get into the later slides. And if you remember what I just said about 200 enrollees, we're talking about 2,500. That's already $6 million within the first year. Your return on investment, as you'll see in a later slide, will actually be doubled back to where I'll be able to give you back $500,000 for those investments. The locations that I chose for my first 4 sites are going to be near Fort Hood, Texas, which is one of the military's largest military installations. It sits right outside of Killeen, Texas. And then we have Houston, Texas. To kind of keep the program as close as possible, those 2 are within at least 100 miles of each other. Then you have Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and Nashville, Tennessee. The cost per building, which is associated with the liability, is up to $30,000 for each building. Then I'll actually spend another $50,000 for research and recruiting of teachers, $80,000 for advertising, and then also plan on working with local colleges in order to get some partnerships with the Early Childhood Education Association to make this program really take off. Like I said earlier, return on investment. In the first year, TLA will gross $6 million in revenue. We'll double what was invested. Like I told you earlier, $500,000 back to you. And then we'll renegotiate terms of continued investment after the first year. After you guys see how great my proposal was and we get everything going, you'll want to invest and really be a part of this, and we'll go into partnership on that. So the last thing is, let's do business. For investment information, you can go ahead and reach out to me. I have a number there, 302-257-9896, and then a mailing address of 237 Pavin Court, Newark, Delaware. Alright guys, thank you for the time, and again, let's go ahead and give back to the community.